something beneath coven bloodline.
Order is fire. Pray.
From their ambition, waiting to consume everyone's losing someone. You weren't then to be forgotten.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Selene establishes a specialized intelligence network to monitor both human and supernatural activity across multiple territories. The network is composed of trusted vampires, hybrids, and sympathetic humans, creating a system capable of rapid response to emerging threats. Selene emphasizes secrecy, coordination, and ethical oversight, ensuring that power is not abused. Kale acts as field liaison, leading reconnaissance missions and gathering vital intelligence. Emotional tension arises when minor factions resist cooperation, testing diplomatic skills and moral judgment. Visual storytelling highlights hidden surveillance posts, shadowed forests, and moonlit cityscapes. Themes of vigilance, responsibility, and strategic foresight are explored. Subplots involve espionage, betrayal, and the navigation of complex alliances. The intelligence network becomes a central narrative device, linking action, politics, and character development. Successes and failures alike underscore the challenges of maintaining peace in a world divided by history and fear. Kale undertakes a journey to train hybrid warriors in remote regions, emphasizing self-control, teamwork, and strategic thinking. The training grounds are surrounded by mountains, dense forests, and ancient ruins, creating both scenic and dangerous environments. Kale demonstrates advanced hybrid abilities, blending vampire speed, Lycan strength, and heightened intuition to teach practical skills. Emotional tension arises as trainees struggle with self-doubt, rivalry, and past traumas. Selene observes occasionally, offering mentorship and tactical advice. Visuals emphasize dynamic action, natural landscapes, and supernatural displays of power. Themes of leadership, growth, and the ethical use of power are central. Subplots reveal internal conflicts among trainees, illustrating the complexity of human-like behavior in supernatural beings. The training sequences deepen character arcs while expanding the world's cultural and social dynamics. These lessons prepare the community for future challenges and strengthen interspecies cooperation. A human faction resurfaces with sophisticated technology capable of detecting supernatural activity. Cities and settlements experience heightened security, fear, and political tension as humans seek control over hybrids and vampires. Selene and Kale coordinate defensive measures, blending strategy, combat, and diplomacy to maintain stability. Emotional stakes rise as civilians, allies, and minor factions are endangered by misunderstandings and provocations. Visual storytelling emphasizes urban landscapes, advanced surveillance technology, and dramatic nighttime engagements. Themes of perception, fear, and the consequences of misinformation are explored. Subplots involve sabotage, espionage, and ideological conflicts within human factions. The narrative demonstrates that coexistence requires constant vigilance and ethical leadership. Strategic decisions have long-term consequences, shaping alliances and the political landscape. The story continues to balance action, tension, and philosophical depth, maintaining audience engagement. Selene uncovers historical records revealing the origins of hybrid bloodlines, tracing connections between ancient vampires, Lycans, and forgotten human experiments. The journey to uncover this history takes her and Kale to ancient libraries, catacombs, and ruins filled with arcane inscriptions. Emotional tension rises as Selene confronts truths about past betrayals, sacrifices, and moral compromises. Kale reflects on his identity, understanding the weight of his heritage and the responsibility of leadership. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic lighting, Gothic architecture, and mystical artifacts. Themes of legacy, moral responsibility, and the consequences of past actions are central. Subplots involve rival scholars, secret societies, and factions seeking to manipulate history for power. The exploration of history enriches the narrative, connecting past and present conflicts. Each revelation informs strategy, ethical decision-making, and character growth. The journey highlights the enduring impact of choices made generations ago. A rogue hybrid faction, influenced by remnants of human experiments, challenges Kale's authority by attempting to seize hybrid settlements. These hybrids possess unique abilities and unpredictability, creating high-stakes confrontations. Kale employs strategy, diplomacy, and combat, balancing aggression with restraint. Selene provides oversight and tactical support, highlighting their mentor-student dynamic. Emotional stakes intensify as casualties occur, alliances are tested, and trust is questioned. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic landscapes, supernatural powers in combat, and high-energy action sequences. Themes of leadership, moral judgment, and unity are explored. Subplots reveal hidden agendas, personal rivalries, and ideological conflicts among hybrids. The confrontation reinforces Kale's growth as a leader capable of balancing power, ethics, and empathy. The narrative demonstrates that authority is earned through action, wisdom, and character. Consequences of failure impact political, social, and personal dynamics. Selene and Kale journey to an ancient vampire stronghold rumored to contain knowledge on stabilizing hybrid abilities permanently. The stronghold is perched atop a cliff, surrounded by jagged rocks, storms, and mystical energy fields. The exploration involves deciphering riddles, evading traps, and overcoming supernatural guardians. Emotional tension arises as both characters confront fears, temptations, and past regrets. Visual storytelling emphasizes Gothic architecture, stormy landscapes, and mystical glow. Themes of responsibility, ethical power use, and personal growth dominate. Subplots involve minor factions attempting sabotage or seeking the knowledge for themselves. The stronghold serves as both a narrative device and a metaphor for the challenges of bridging past and future. Selene and Kale's bond strengthens as they navigate peril and moral dilemmas together. The sequence blends action, suspense, and introspection seamlessly. Success yields crucial knowledge, but hints at larger threats still looming. A human-led mercenary group infiltrates hybrid training grounds, seeking to capture or eliminate promising hybrids. Selene leads countermeasures while Kale coordinates defenses using supernatural speed, strength, and strategy. Emotional stakes heighten as trainees face danger, and minor characters exhibit courage, fear, and loyalty. Visual storytelling emphasizes stealth, combat choreography, and dramatic lighting. Themes of responsibility, vigilance, and ethical leadership are central. Subplots explore betrayal, personal ambition, and differing philosophies among mercenaries. The conflict underscores the importance of preparation, unity, and moral clarity in leadership. Kale's decisions during the engagement reinforce his role as both protector and mediator. The narrative balances tension, action, and character development. Long-term consequences of the skirmish ripple through hybrid, vampire, and human communities. This episode cements the stakes of coexistence and the costs of failure. Selene and Kale uncover intelligence pointing to a coalition of rogue vampires and lichens plotting to seize control of hybrid populations. Their investigation involves urban infiltration, intelligence gathering, and covert operations in abandoned cities and industrial zones. Emotional tension arises as characters navigate deception, loyalty tests, and moral dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes dimly lit streets, Gothic structures, and supernatural powers in motion. Themes of unity, leadership, and vigilance are central. Subplots include espionage, secret alliances, and ideological disputes among rogue factions. The narrative explores the consequences of fragmented authority and the need for ethical, decisive action. Kale demonstrates strategic foresight, balancing diplomacy and force. Selene's mentorship and experience guide decisions, reinforcing the mentor-student dynamic. The investigation escalates toward a larger confrontation, heightening stakes and tension. The story builds toward a climactic convergence of all factions, vampires, lichens, hybrids, and humans. The battlefield spans multiple terrains, moonlit cities, ruined temples, and fortified settlements. Selene and Kale coordinate multi-layered strategies, blending combat, supernatural powers, and tactical intelligence. Emotional stakes peak as alliances are tested, sacrifices occur, and moral decisions define outcomes. Visual storytelling emphasizes chaos, energy, and supernatural spectacle. Themes of unity, ethical leadership, and responsibility are explored. Subplots resolve or escalate, including personal rivalries, ideological conflicts, and hidden agendas. The narrative demonstrates the culmination of prior character growth, training, and alliances. Strategic thinking, teamwork, and ethical judgment prove as crucial as raw power. The confrontation sets the stage for narrative resolution while leaving space for future developments. The climax is both emotionally and visually satisfying, highlighting the stakes of coexistence. The aftermath of the climactic battle leaves Selene and Kale surveying devastated territories, evaluating casualties and rebuilding efforts. Cities, settlements, and hidden strongholds bear the scars of war, both physical and emotional. Selene takes on the responsibility of coordinating reconstruction, emphasizing infrastructure, defenses, and cultural preservation. Kale works directly with hybrids, lichens, and vampires to establish governance systems, training programs, and dispute resolution mechanisms. Emotional tension arises as survivors grapple with grief, fear, and uncertainty about the future. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit reconstruction, ruined architecture, and the resilience of communities. Themes of leadership, resilience, and legacy dominate. Subplots involving minor characters resolve as allies reconcile, enemies repent, or are contained. The narrative conveys the long-term consequences of conflict, highlighting the importance of ethical decision-making and cooperation. Kale focuses on stabilizing hybrid powers, using newly discovered ancient techniques combined with modern strategy. Experiments and training sequences are conducted in controlled environments, blending mystical, scientific, and practical approaches. Emotional stakes arise as hybrids struggle to control their evolving abilities, sometimes endangering themselves or others. Selene monitors, advises, and intervenes when necessary, reinforcing mentorship and strategic oversight. Visual storytelling highlights luminous energy effects, mystical glyphs, and intense motion sequences. Themes of self-control, identity, and ethical use of power are explored. Subplots explore interspecies mentorship, rivalries, and alliances, enriching the narrative fabric. The stabilization process symbolizes growth, unity, and the harmonization of diverse powers. Kale's leadership is solidified through patience, intelligence, and moral clarity. A human coalition, seeing the stability among hybrids, vampires, and lichens, begins tentative negotiations with Selene and Kale. Diplomatic sequences unfold in grand chambers, abandoned industrial facilities, and moonlit ruins, emphasizing suspense and the fragility of trust. Emotional tension arises as both sides test boundaries, with minor factions attempting to sabotage talks. Visual storytelling emphasizes dim lighting, formal attire contrasted with supernatural presence, and tension-filled compositions. Themes of diplomacy, ethics, and coexistence dominate. Subplots involve espionage, personal vendettas, and ideological conflicts within human factions. Kale's hybrid identity becomes a symbol of unity, serving as a bridge between humans and supernatural species. The narrative emphasizes that reconciliation requires patience, compromise, and mutual respect. These sequences reinforce the franchise's focus on strategy and moral responsibility. Selene returns to the vampire archives to oversee historical preservation, education, and research on hybrid integration. Ancient texts, mystical artifacts, and genealogical records are catalogued and studied. Emotional stakes involve reconciling past mistakes, honoring fallen allies, and planning for future generations. Visual storytelling highlights candlelit archives, ornate architecture, and mystical illumination. Themes of legacy, knowledge, and ethical responsibility are central. Subplots involve minor characters assuming leadership roles, establishing their reputations, and fostering alliances. The archive serves as both narrative hub and symbol of wisdom, continuity, and stability. Selene's leadership evolves from tactical combat expertise to intellectual and moral guidance. The archives also function as training spaces for future leaders, bridging history and innovation. These sequences enrich world building and character depth. Kale undertakes a personal journey into remote hybrid territories to mediate disputes and strengthen alliances. Rugged mountains, misty valleys, and ancient ruins create a dramatic backdrop. Emotional stakes include negotiating trust, confronting hostility, and demonstrating fairness. Visual storytelling emphasizes natural landscapes, dynamic action, and supernatural abilities in motion. Themes of leadership, diplomacy, and moral judgment are explored. Subplots involve minor rivalries, hidden threats, and ideological clashes. Kale's hybrid powers allow him to navigate complex situations, balancing intuition, combat skill, and empathy. Selene occasionally provides remote guidance, reinforcing their partnership and mentorship dynamic. The journey emphasizes that unity requires constant effort, communication, and ethical decision-making. Successes and failures alike shape the political and social landscape. A symbolic ceremony is held to honor fallen vampires, lichens, and hybrids, uniting all factions in mourning and reconciliation. Emotional tension arises as unresolved grievances surface, old rivalries are confronted, and forgiveness is extended. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelight, moonlit plazas, and dramatic architecture. Themes of remembrance, unity, and closure dominate. Subplots explore personal reconciliation, recognition of heroism, and the consequences of past actions. Kale and Selene preside over the ceremony, reinforcing their leadership roles and moral authority. The narrative emphasizes that healing requires acknowledgement, reflection, and communal participation. Emotional arcs reach resolution, providing closure while hinting at ongoing vigilance. The ceremony also foreshadows potential future threats, maintaining narrative tension without undermining triumph. Selene and Kale conduct a strategic review of remaining threats, monitoring rogue elements, human factions, and minor supernatural insurgencies. Plans are devised to prevent resurgence of conflict, combining diplomacy, intelligence, and selective force. Emotional tension arises from balancing ethical responsibility with practical necessity. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit strategy rooms, mystical artifacts, and digital interfaces. Themes of vigilance, responsibility, and foresight are central. Subplots reveal hidden alliances, lingering rivalries, and tests of loyalty. The narrative reinforces the importance of proactive leadership in maintaining peace. Kale's hybrid abilities provide unique insight, blending intuition, strategy, and morality. Selene's experience ensures balanced judgment, emphasizing mentorship and collaborative governance. These sequences highlight the ongoing complexity of maintaining interspecies harmony. Minor factions attempt minor insurgencies, testing the resilience of the newly unified supernatural world. Kale and Selene respond with tactical precision, ethical restraint, and strategic foresight. Emotional stakes include casualties, betrayal, and the temptation to abuse power. Visual storytelling emphasizes dynamic combat sequences, strategic positioning, and supernatural abilities. Themes of responsibility, justice, and leadership are reinforced. Subplots explore redemption, loyalty, and moral ambiguity among insurgents. The narrative demonstrates that unity requires constant effort, ethical vigilance, and strategic thinking. Kale's leadership evolves through direct engagement, negotiation, and moral clarity. Selene balances guidance with empowerment, fostering capable future leaders. Consequences of minor insurgencies highlight the fragility of peace and the ongoing need for collaboration. The final sequences depict Selene and Kale overlooking a moonlit valley, symbolizing the dawn of a new era. Settlements are rebuilt, alliances formalized, and hybrid society stabilized. Emotional closure addresses grief, hope, and the rewards of ethical leadership. Visual storytelling emphasizes expansive landscapes, Gothic architecture, and serene moonlight. Themes of unity, resilience, and responsibility dominate. Subplots resolve with minor characters assuming roles, ideological disputes settled, and alliances solidified. Hints of potential future threats are subtly included, leaving narrative space for sequels. The epilogue emphasizes that peace requires vigilance, collaboration, and moral integrity. Cale's role as mediator and Selene's mentorship ensure continuity, stability, and growth. The final imagery blends reflection, triumph, and readiness for challenges ahead. Selene oversees the establishment of a hybrid academy, where vampires, lichens, and hybrids train together to maintain peace and develop leadership skills. The campus is fortified yet integrated with natural landscapes, blending Gothic architecture with lush forests. Emotional stakes involve balancing authority with mentorship, managing rivalries, and fostering cooperation among diverse students. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit courtyards, mystical training arenas, and dynamic movement. Themes of unity, education, and legacy dominate. Subplots explore interpersonal growth, ethical dilemmas, and the forging of lifelong bonds. Cale serves as a central instructor, bridging gaps between species and demonstrating the ethical use of hybrid powers. The academy becomes a symbol of hope and a hub for future leadership. Strategic planning, mentorship, and ethical training reinforce franchise themes. Cale embarks on a final reconnaissance mission into regions where rogue factions linger, testing his leadership, intuition, and hybrid abilities. The terrain is varied, mountainous passes, abandoned villages, and mystical forests. Emotional tension arises as Cale confronts remnants of conflict, navigates moral ambiguity, and balances duty with empathy. Visual storytelling highlights natural hazards, dynamic combat, and supernatural agility. Themes of vigilance, responsibility, and ethical decision-making are explored. Subplots involve minor confrontations, political maneuvering, and tests of loyalty. Cale's hybrid powers allow him to mediate disputes, prevent violence, and establish trust. Selene provides strategic oversight remotely, reinforcing their ongoing partnership. The mission reinforces that peace is maintained through action, empathy, and moral clarity. A final human supernatural summit is convened to formalize agreements between remaining factions. Diplomatic sequences unfold in grand halls, moonlit plazas, and fortified neutral zones. Emotional stakes rise as old grievances, mistrust, and competing agendas are confronted. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelit chambers, statues of historical leaders, and the contrast of human and supernatural representatives. Themes of diplomacy, reconciliation, and leadership dominate. Subplots reveal minor betrayals, ideological conflicts, and resolutions of past disputes. Cale represents hybrid interests, embodying unity, moral clarity, and strategic insight. Selene's presence underscores authority, wisdom, and guidance. Agreements formalize governance structures, cultural exchanges, and mutual protection treaties. The summit serves as narrative closure for political conflicts while leaving space for future stories. Selene revisits key sites from past battles, paying homage to fallen allies and reflecting on the consequences of war. Emotional tension is profound, emphasizing grief, remembrance, and resilience. Visual storytelling highlights ruined fortresses, moonlit cemeteries, and weathered monuments. Themes of legacy, sacrifice, and moral responsibility are central. Subplots include minor reconciliations, rediscovery of lost knowledge, and symbolic acts of closure. Cale accompanies her, observing and participating in rituals that solidify communal memory. These sequences provide emotional depth and narrative balance between action and reflection. The franchise's Gothic aesthetic is maintained, blending melancholy with hope. Selene's personal journey underscores growth, ethical leadership, and reconciliation. The scenes reinforce that remembering the past informs the future. Cale establishes a network of scouts and ambassadors to monitor hybrid populations, rogue elements, and potential human threats. The network spans remote valleys, urban centers, and mystical regions. Emotional stakes involve navigating loyalty, building trust, and preventing misunderstanding. Visual storytelling emphasizes surveillance posts, moonlit landscapes, and dynamic action sequences. Themes of vigilance, responsibility, and foresight dominate. Subplots involve minor rivalries, mentorship of younger hybrids, and ethical decision-making. Kale's hybrid nature allows him to mediate effectively, maintaining balance between strength, empathy, and strategic insight. Selene provides oversight, ensuring cohesion and ethical practice. This infrastructure ensures the stability of the supernatural world. The narrative underscores that peace requires ongoing effort, intelligence, and moral clarity. A final encounter occurs with a hidden rogue hybrid faction seeking vengeance for past grievances. Selene and Kale confront them, blending diplomacy, strategic restraint, and measured combat. Emotional stakes are high as the rogue hybrids test loyalty, provoke fear, and challenge ethical principles. Visual storytelling emphasizes dark forests, ruins, and moonlit confrontations with supernatural powers. Themes of redemption, moral responsibility, and reconciliation dominate. Subplots reveal hidden motivations, minor alliances, and character growth. Kale's hybrid abilities allow nuanced responses, balancing enforcement with empathy. Selene demonstrates mastery of leadership, ethical restraint, and tactical acumen. The resolution neutralizes the threat while reinforcing trust, unity, and ethical governance. Consequences are addressed realistically, emphasizing that vigilance is continuous. The Hybrid Academy hosts a ceremonial event celebrating unity, training, and achievement. Vampires, lichens, and humans attend alongside hybrids, marking the culmination of reconciliation efforts. Emotional tension arises from lingering past grievances and the hope for sustained peace. Visual storytelling emphasizes grandeur, moonlit courtyards, and dramatic architecture. Themes of unity, education, and legacy dominate. Subplots highlight personal achievements, reconciliations, and moral growth of minor characters. Kale and Selene preside over the ceremony, symbolizing leadership, mentorship, and the bridge between species. The event solidifies the narrative's central message: coexistence is possible through effort, empathy, and moral clarity. The ceremony also foreshadows future leadership challenges, ensuring narrative continuity. Emotional arcs resolve satisfactorily. Selene and Kale survey their world from a high vantage point, observing settlements, forests, and urban centers thriving under renewed cooperation. Emotional stakes highlight reflection, pride, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit landscapes, Gothic architecture, and serene natural elements. Themes of responsibility, legacy, and hope dominate. Subplots resolve, with minor factions integrated or neutralized, and alliances solidified. Kale's hybrid abilities are respected, admired, and leveraged for diplomacy. Selene's experience guides governance, education, and moral oversight. Together, they symbolize balance, leadership, and unity. The narrative emphasizes that peace requires wisdom, vigilance, and ethical decision-making. Future challenges are hinted at subtly, maintaining potential for sequels while providing closure. The epilogue depicts the supernatural world entering a period of prosperity, education, and cultural integration. Settlements flourish, hybrid communities stabilize, and alliances between humans, vampires, and lichens solidify. Emotional closure addresses grief, triumph, and reconciliation. Visual storytelling emphasizes harmonious landscapes, architectural beauty, and supernatural energy. Themes of unity, resilience, and legacy dominate. Subplots finalize minor conflicts, reinforce character arcs, and highlight moral lessons. Kale and Selene remain central, guiding, mentoring, and maintaining vigilance. The epilogue balances reflection with anticipation, showing that the world is secure but dynamic. The narrative emphasizes growth, responsibility, and ethical leadership. The franchise's signature Gothic, cinematic tone is maintained throughout. The final paragraph closes the story with a symbolic image: Selene and Kale standing atop a cliff, moonlight bathing the valley below. Emotional resonance highlights hope, vigilance, and the enduring power of unity. Visual storytelling emphasizes scale, beauty, and the contrast of shadow and light. Themes of balance, moral responsibility, and leadership are reinforced. Subplots are resolved, legacies honored, and future possibilities hinted at. Kale embodies hybrid potential, bridging divides and inspiring loyalty. Selene symbolizes wisdom, resilience, and guidance. The narrative concludes with triumph tempered by realism, showing that peace is an ongoing effort requiring courage, empathy, and integrity. The cinematic world is complete, immersive, and ready for future stories. Selene returns to the vampire archives, now tasked with training a new generation of elite death dealers. The archives, filled with ancient tomes, glowing inscriptions, and relics from past wars, serve as both a classroom and a meditation space. She teaches strategy, combat, and ethics, emphasizing restraint and leadership. Kale assists, sharing insights from his hybrid perspective, bridging the understanding between vampires and lichens. Their mentorship fosters cooperation, respect, and innovation. The next generation learns not only combat but diplomacy, intelligence gathering, and problem solving. Lessons often involve simulations of past conflicts, teaching historical awareness alongside practical skills. The archives themselves feel alive, echoing whispers of history and emphasizing the weight of legacy. Subtle tensions arise among students, hinting at personality clashes and potential future storylines. The atmosphere is one of disciplined focus, punctuated by moments of camaraderie and mentorship. Kale embarks on a solo mission to track rogue hybrids who have been causing unrest in remote regions. The landscape is desolate, filled with mountains, forests, and abandoned human settlements. He encounters hybrids struggling to control their powers, and through both combat and dialogue, he helps them find balance. These interactions explore themes of empathy, leadership, and moral responsibility. Kale's growth as a leader becomes evident as he resolves conflicts without unnecessary violence. The mission reinforces his hybrid identity as both a strength and a challenge, emphasizing self-discovery and adaptability. Visuals highlight moonlit forests, eerie ruins, and supernatural agility in combat. Emotional stakes are underscored by Kale's internal dialogue, reflecting fear, hope, and determination. The mission also uncovers hints of a new human faction experimenting with supernatural genetics. These discoveries build suspense and suggest that the story's central conflict is far from over. The narrative intertwines action, psychology, and mythology seamlessly. Selene faces political challenges as rival vampire factions question her authority. Some elders resent her association with hybrids, viewing Kale as a threat to tradition. Council meetings are tense, filled with sharp dialogue and subtle threats. Selene navigates these challenges with diplomacy and authority, demonstrating leadership beyond combat skill. She seeks to maintain unity, reminding the council of past wars and the cost of division. Strategic alliances are formed with cautious Lichen leaders, bridging centuries of animosity. The narrative emphasizes negotiation, persuasion, and moral judgment as crucial tools alongside martial prowess. Themes of tradition versus innovation are explored, highlighting generational differences. Subplots involve minor characters scheming for personal gain, adding intrigue and complexity. The story balances political tension with supernatural action, ensuring pacing remains dynamic. Every decision Selene makes carries weight, shaping the future of both species. A human faction resurfaces, led by a brilliant but ruthless scientist seeking to harness hybrid genetics. The faction operates from hidden underground laboratories, filled with advanced technology and surveillance systems. Selene and Kale discover traces of their activity, triggering a series of tactical maneuvers. The humans' goal is to create controlled hybrid soldiers, blending the abilities of vampires, lichens, and humans. The narrative explores ethical dilemmas regarding scientific experimentation and the consequences of unchecked ambition. Action sequences involve stealth infiltration, combat against enhanced soldiers, and the neutralization of experimental threats. Visual storytelling emphasizes dimly lit labs, glowing vials, and the tension of covert operations. Emotional stakes are heightened as characters confront betrayal, risk, and mortality. The story juxtaposes technological ingenuity with supernatural power, creating layered conflicts. Themes of morality, responsibility, and power are central, resonating throughout these confrontations. Kale encounters a group of Lycans loyal to an ancient Lycan elder who opposes coexistence with vampires. This faction seeks to reignite a war, believing hybrids to be abominations. Kale must negotiate, fight, and persuade them to consider alliance or neutrality. Selene advises him from a distance, providing guidance while allowing Kale to assert his independence. Conflicts are both physical and philosophical, testing the character's resolve, strategic thinking, and empathy. Themes of prejudice, fear, and reconciliation are explored in dialogue and action. The narrative highlights the consequences of isolation and the importance of bridging divides. Visuals include misty forests, rugged terrain, and dynamic combat choreography. Kale's decisions have far-reaching implications, impacting trust, alliances, and future stability. Emotional tension is sustained, providing depth beyond action sequences. These events reinforce the story's central themes of unity and ethical leadership. The hybrid community begins to organize under Kale's guidance, creating a safe haven for hybrids and allies of both species. The settlement is strategically located in a hidden valley, fortified with both supernatural defenses and natural barriers. Kale implements training, governance, and conflict resolution, ensuring that the community functions smoothly. Selene monitors from afar, offering counsel while testing the leadership skills of the hybrids themselves. Internal disputes provide narrative tension, exploring issues of hierarchy, fairness, and loyalty. The story emphasizes cooperation, resourcefulness, and collective responsibility. Visuals highlight a mix of Gothic architecture, natural landscapes, and supernatural enhancements. Emotional arcs develop as hybrids form bonds, confront past trauma, and embrace new identities. Minor conflicts illustrate the challenges of building a community after prolonged war. Themes of healing, governance, and legacy dominate these narrative threads. The settlement becomes both a plot hub and a symbol of potential unity. Selene uncovers clues pointing to an ancient vampire artifact capable of amplifying powers. Legends suggest it can stabilize Kale's abilities or be weaponized for domination. A quest ensues to locate the artifact before humans or rogue hybrids seize it. The journey spans treacherous mountains, forgotten temples, and shadowed catacombs. Puzzles, traps, and guardians test both intellect and combat skill. Emotional tension arises as characters confront personal fears and past regrets. Themes of temptation, responsibility, and power are explored. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic lighting, grand architecture, and supernatural effects. The artifact quest deepens character bonds, highlights moral dilemmas, and escalates stakes. Each obstacle reflects internal and external challenges. The adventure intertwines mythology, strategy, and personal growth seamlessly. A climactic confrontation occurs when rogue hybrids attempt to seize the artifact simultaneously with human forces. Selene, Kale, and allies coordinate defense strategies, blending combat, tactical deception, and supernatural abilities. Action sequences are expansive, incorporating vertical environments, urban ruins, and ancient temples. Kale's hybrid powers reach their zenith, allowing creative solutions to overwhelming threats. Emotional arcs peak as characters make sacrifices, reconcile past conflicts, and demonstrate loyalty. The narrative emphasizes that unity and moral judgment outweigh sheer power. Themes of destiny, choice, and collaboration are central to the climax. Visual storytelling highlights motion, energy, and supernatural spectacle. Dialogue underscores moral stakes, leadership, and trust. The confrontation resolves multiple plot threads while leaving room for future narrative exploration. Consequences of decisions ripple across the world, shaping political and supernatural landscapes. The story concludes with Selene and Kale surveying the world from a high vantage point, reflecting on victories, losses, and responsibilities. Vampire and Lycan societies begin formalizing peace agreements, incorporating hybrid perspectives. Humans are cautious but aware of the supernatural balance, hinting at future cooperation or conflict. Kale assumes leadership roles, mentoring others, and acting as a symbol of reconciliation. Selene contemplates her legacy, balancing warrior instincts with the need for diplomacy. Emotional closure addresses grief, hope, and the consequences of war. Visuals emphasize moonlight, Gothic structures, and natural landscapes, maintaining franchise tone. Themes of vigilance, unity, and moral responsibility are reinforced. Subtle hints of emerging threats leave narrative doors open. The epilogue blends triumph, reflection, and realism. Harmony is achieved, yet the story suggests that peace requires continued effort and wisdom. Selene convenes a council with hybrid, vampire, and Lycan representatives to establish long-term governance strategies. The chamber is illuminated by flickering torchlight, casting shadows across ancient murals depicting centuries of conflict. Tensions rise as factions debate rules, resources, and the limits of hybrid authority. Kale mediates disputes, demonstrating the potential for cooperation through action and example. Emotional currents run high, revealing old grudges, jealousy, and fear. Selene emphasizes unity, ethical leadership, and shared responsibility. Minor skirmishes and heated exchanges test diplomacy and patience. Visual storytelling highlights the Gothic architecture, shadowed corners, and flickering flames. Themes of negotiation, compromise, and leadership dominate. The session ends with tentative agreements, signaling cautious optimism. Kale journeys into a snow-covered mountain range to broker peace between warring Lycan clans. Blizzards, jagged cliffs, and frozen lakes create a perilous environment. He faces rogue Lycans refusing dialogue, requiring both combat and persuasive negotiation. Emotional stakes include loyalty, trust, and fear of failure. Visuals emphasize white-capped peaks, swirling snow, and supernatural agility. Themes of reconciliation, diplomacy, and ethical leadership are central. Subplots include rivalries within clans and minor factions testing Kale's resolve. Through dialogue and action, Kale demonstrates the hybrid balance of strength and wisdom. These encounters deepen his leadership arc. Success fosters tentative alliances, but hints at lingering mistrust. The narrative blends adventure, tension, and character growth seamlessly. Meanwhile, human propagandists spread fear about hybrids and supernatural cooperation. Cities experience riots, misinformation campaigns, and public hysteria. Selene and Kale respond with strategic interventions, public demonstrations, and covert intelligence operations. Emotional tension arises as some humans resist understanding, while others show curiosity and openness. Visual storytelling emphasizes crowded streets, flickering fires, and ominous billboards. Themes of perception, propaganda, and societal influence are explored. Minor plots involve undercover allies, saboteurs, and ideological disputes. The narrative emphasizes the ongoing challenge of coexistence and trust-building. Ethical dilemmas are highlighted when actions taken to calm unrest risk escalation. These events reinforce leadership, strategy, and moral responsibility. Selene embarks on a personal journey revisiting ruins of past battles and ancient vampire strongholds. Memories of fallen comrades, lost love, and past decisions surface. Flashbacks intertwine with present reflection, highlighting resilience, grief, and personal growth. Kale accompanies her sporadically, offering support and moral counsel. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit crypts, fog-laden corridors, and flickering candlelight. Themes of redemption, legacy, and personal responsibility dominate. Minor subplots include unresolved historical disputes and hidden messages from past allies. The journey reinforces Selene's evolution from warrior to strategist and mentor. Emotional resonance is heightened by memory-driven introspection. The sequences provide narrative depth and contrast with high-stakes action elsewhere. Subtle foreshadowing hints at future threats. Kale establishes training grounds for new hybrids, teaching control, combat, and diplomacy. Hidden valleys, fortified ruins, and mystical wards create both scenic and dangerous environments. Trainees struggle with temper, power, and cooperation. Kale emphasizes teamwork, patience, and ethical responsibility. Emotional arcs explore fear, jealousy, and trust among young hybrids. Visuals highlight moonlit arenas, supernatural displays, and dynamic action. Themes of mentorship, legacy, and leadership dominate. Subplots reveal minor conflicts, personal rivalries, and character growth. Selene occasionally intervenes, reinforcing the partnership and teaching wisdom. These sequences blend spectacle with character development. Training prepares hybrids for future challenges, strengthening the overall narrative arc. A rogue hybrid attempts an assassination against Selene during a council meeting, sparking chaos and fear. Kale and loyal allies intervene, preventing disaster. Investigations uncover motivations rooted in fear, ideology, and jealousy. Emotional stakes intensify as trust is questioned and past traumas resurface. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowed corridors, rapid movements, and dramatic action. Themes of loyalty, betrayal, and ethical decision-making dominate. Minor subplots explore hidden alliances and the consequences of radicalization. The narrative demonstrates the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance. Kale's hybrid abilities provide both defense and diplomacy. Selene's leadership is tested, reinforcing her growth and strategic acumen. Consequences ripple across political and supernatural structures. Selene and Kale discover an ancient artifact rumored to amplify supernatural powers. Legends claim it could stabilize hybrid abilities or be weaponized for domination. Their quest takes them through treacherous jungles, flooded ruins, and mountain peaks. Emotional tension arises as they confront moral dilemmas, personal fears, and the temptation of power. Visual storytelling emphasizes glowing glyphs, misty landscapes, and perilous traps. Themes of responsibility, choice, and ethical leadership dominate. Subplots explore rival explorers, human conspiracies, and factional interest. The journey deepens character relationships, strengthens trust, and escalates stakes. Every challenge tests combat skill, intellect, and ethical judgment. The artifact symbolizes both temptation and opportunity, reflecting internal and external conflicts. A large-scale battle erupts when human forces attack hybrid settlements, aiming to capture or eliminate Kale. Selene coordinates defenses, employing strategy, supernatural combat, and diplomacy. Emotional stakes peak as allies face danger, sacrifices occur, and trust is tested. Visual storytelling emphasizes chaotic landscapes, supernatural abilities in motion, and dramatic contrasts of light and shadow. Themes of unity, resilience, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots include minor characters' bravery, betrayal, and personal growth. Kale demonstrates leadership, balancing instinct with ethical reasoning. The narrative juxtaposes individual heroism with collective strategy. Consequences affect political alliances, community stability, and personal relationships. These sequences highlight the ongoing struggle for coexistence. In the aftermath of conflict, Kale is recognized as a mediator among vampires, lichens, and hybrids. Societies begin establishing councils, training programs, and monitoring systems. Selene mentors the next generation, emphasizing diplomacy, ethics, and strategic thinking. Emotional arcs resolve with reconciliation, reflection, and cautious optimism. Visuals emphasize rebuilt settlements, serene landscapes, and symbolic monuments. Themes of governance, legacy, and the cost of power dominate. Minor plots are resolved or contained, providing narrative closure. Relationships deepen, emphasizing trust, mentorship, and cooperation. Subtle hints suggest future challenges, keeping the world dynamic. Strategic growth and moral responsibility frame the narrative's final stages. Selene and Kale oversee the stabilization of hybrid powers using ancient techniques and modern training. Controlled environments, mystical wards, and careful monitoring ensure safety. Emotional tension arises as hybrids struggle with self-control, responsibility, and identity. Visual storytelling emphasizes luminous energy, mystical symbols, and dynamic training sequences. Themes of mastery, ethical power, and personal growth dominate. Minor conflicts reveal character development, loyalty, and ambition. Kale's leadership combines empathy, strategy, and moral judgment. Selene guides ethically, reinforcing mentorship and the continuity of leadership. The process symbolizes balance, integration, and long-term sustainability. Lessons of patience, foresight, and collaboration reinforce narrative themes. Selene leads a delegation to negotiate peace with a rogue vampire faction that has refused integration. The faction's fortress is atop a jagged cliff, surrounded by storms and mist, reflecting their isolation and hostility. Emotional stakes are high as old grievances, distrust, and fear threaten talks. Kale provides tactical support and moral guidance, demonstrating the hybrid bridge between species. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic lightning, Gothic architecture, and tense dialogue. Themes of reconciliation, leadership, and trust dominate. Minor subplots explore betrayals, hidden motives, and the complexity of loyalty. Selene's negotiation skills are tested against pride and prejudice. Success fosters tentative alliances, but caution remains necessary. The sequence underscores the ongoing challenge of unity and ethical leadership. Kale discovers a hidden Leaken enclave harboring survivors from past wars. He navigates treacherous forests, icy rivers, and mountain passes, confronting hostile terrain and rogue factions. Emotional tension arises as Kale balances mercy, justice, and diplomacy, earning trust through action and wisdom. Visual storytelling highlights snowy landscapes, moonlit valleys, and supernatural agility. Themes of empathy, leadership, and moral decision-making dominate. Minor characters reveal ambition, fear, and loyalty, adding narrative depth. Kale's hybrid abilities allow nuanced negotiation and defense. Selene observes remotely, offering counsel and moral guidance. The enclave becomes a strategic ally and a symbol of potential peace. The journey reinforces the importance of patience, resilience, and ethical governance. A human faction attempts to manipulate public perception, spreading propaganda about hybrids. Riots erupt in major cities, escalating tension and threatening coexistence. Selene orchestrates public demonstrations, covert intelligence gathering, and strategic communication to counter misinformation. Emotional stakes are heightened as civilians, allies, and minor factions respond unpredictably. Visual storytelling emphasizes chaotic streets, flickering torches, and tense confrontations. Themes of perception, fear, and responsibility dominate. Subplots explore minor espionage, sabotage, and ideological disputes. Kale's hybrid powers assist in protecting civilians and mediating tensions. The narrative demonstrates that coexistence is fragile and requires vigilance, diplomacy, and ethical judgment. Success restores partial stability but hints at ongoing challenges. Selene and Kale venture into ancient ruins rumored to hold knowledge of hybrid stabilization techniques. The ruins are labyrinthine, filled with traps, inscriptions, and mystical guardians. Emotional tension arises as they confront past regrets, fears, and ethical dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes glowing glyphs, shadowed corridors, and mystical energy. Themes of wisdom, legacy, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots involve rival explorers, secret factions, and hidden agendas. Their journey strengthens trust, tests intellect and compatibility, and deepens character bonds. The ruins symbolize the interplay of past knowledge and future potential. Success yields critical insights for stabilizing hybrid abilities. Ethical use of newfound knowledge becomes a recurring narrative theme. A hybrid uprising challenges Kale's authority, driven by resentment and desire for independence. Violent skirmishes erupt across settlements, testing defenses, diplomacy, and ethical decision-making. Emotional stakes rise as casualties occur, loyalty is questioned, and trust is strained. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit forests, ruins, and fast-paced supernatural combat. Themes of leadership, responsibility, and reconciliation dominate. Subplots explore ideological disputes, rivalries, and personal growth among insurgents. Kale demonstrates moral courage, strategic thinking, and empathy in resolving conflict. Selene provides support and mentorship, reinforcing their partnership. The confrontation emphasizes the necessity of ethical leadership and patience. Consequences of the uprising ripple across political and social structures. Selene uncovers evidence of human experimentation on hybrids, creating rogue factions with unstable powers. Covert missions into abandoned laboratories and hidden research centers reveal both technological and supernatural threats. Emotional tension arises as Selene confronts ethical dilemmas, personal loss, and the implications of unchecked human ambition. Visual storytelling emphasizes dimly lit labs, glowing equipment, and suspenseful infiltrations. Themes of ethics, responsibility, and vigilance dominate. Subplots explore hidden agendas, betrayal, and alliances. Kale assists with reconnaissance and negotiation, bridging human and supernatural perspectives. The narrative underscores that moral clarity and strategic foresight are essential in leadership. Success prevents catastrophic misuse of hybrid powers. Lessons of restraint, ethics, and collaboration resonate. A large-scale battle erupts at a hybrid stronghold when rogue factions and human mercenaries converge. Selene and Kale coordinate defenses, blending strategy, combat, and supernatural abilities. Emotional stakes peak as allies face mortal danger, trust is tested, and sacrifices occur. Visual storytelling emphasizes chaos, supernatural powers, and dynamic environments. Themes of unity, moral responsibility, and leadership dominate. Subplots include minor heroism, betrayals, and character arcs. Kale's hybrid abilities allow creative tactics and empathetic leadership. Selene's tactical mastery guides the defense, ensuring cohesion and minimizing unnecessary casualties. The battle solidifies the legitimacy of hybrid governance. The narrative balances high-stakes action with ethical dilemmas. Consequences shape political, social, and supernatural landscapes. In the aftermath of conflict, Selene and Kale work to stabilize hybrid society. Councils are formed, training programs implemented, and protective measures established. Emotional arcs resolve as reconciliation occurs, trust is rebuilt, and communities unite. Visual storytelling emphasizes restored settlements, peaceful landscapes, and symbolic monuments. Themes of governance, legacy, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor plots conclude, ensuring closure for secondary characters. Kale continues mentoring hybrids, reinforcing cooperation and moral development. Selene oversees education, archives, and diplomacy, blending strategy with wisdom. The narrative underscores that peace is earned through vigilance, collaboration, and ethical action. Future threats are hinted at subtly, maintaining narrative tension. Selene and Kale establish a hybrid academy to ensure knowledge transfer and leadership continuity. Training grounds blend Gothic architecture, natural landscapes, and mystical wards. Emotional stakes involve mentoring students, managing rivalries, and fostering teamwork. Visual storytelling highlights dynamic training sequences, glowing magical symbols, and collaborative exercises. Themes of unity, education, and responsibility dominate. Subplots explore minor conflicts, ambition, and personal growth. Kale's hybrid abilities are central to instruction, demonstrating balance, control, and ethical leadership. Selene guides with wisdom and authority. The academy symbolizes hope, continuity, and the future of interspecies cooperation. The narrative emphasizes preparation, resilience, and moral guidance. The final epilogue depicts Selene and Kale overlooking the hybrid settlement from a cliff, bathed in moonlight. Cities, forests, and settlements thrive, symbolizing restored balance and cautious optimism. Emotional resonance highlights reflection, triumph, and the ongoing need for vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes scale, beauty, and Gothic aesthetics. Themes of legacy, unity, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor plots are resolved, alliances solidified, and character arcs completed. Subtle hints of emerging challenges maintain narrative openness. Kale embodies hybrid potential and diplomacy, while Selene represents wisdom and mentorship. The story closes with hope tempered by realism, showing that peace requires continued effort, moral clarity, and collaboration. The cinematic world is complete, immersive, and dynamic. Selene organizes a memorial for all fallen vampires, lichens, and hybrids, honoring their sacrifices and reinforcing the importance of unity. The ceremony is held in a grand, moonlit plaza surrounded by ancient monuments. Emotional stakes are high as survivors confront grief, guilt, and the weight of history. Visual storytelling emphasizes flickering torches, solemn faces, and Gothic architecture. Themes of remembrance, reconciliation, and legacy dominate. Minor subplots resolve as estranged allies reconcile, debts are paid, and new bonds are formed. Kale helps organize younger hybrids, ensuring they understand the history and sacrifices that shaped their world. The event provides emotional closure while reinforcing leadership and responsibility. Reflections on past mistakes guide future actions. The ceremony symbolizes the potential for enduring peace. Kale undertakes a strategic mission to monitor rogue human factions attempting to manipulate hybrid settlements. Remote forests, abandoned industrial sites, and secret laboratories serve as dynamic settings. Emotional tension arises as Kale navigates deception, espionage, and potential ambushes. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowed landscapes, subtle surveillance, and kinetic action sequences. Themes of vigilance, moral responsibility, and strategic foresight dominate. Subplots explore minor confrontations, hidden alliances, and ideological conflicts. Kale's hybrid abilities enable nuanced decision-making, balancing defense with diplomacy. Selene provides remote guidance and strategic insight. The mission underscores the ongoing vigilance required to maintain peace. Success ensures hybrid communities remain safe and cohesive. Selene revisits ancient vampire strongholds to consolidate historical records, artifacts, and mystical knowledge. Emotional stakes arise as she uncovers past betrayals, forgotten sacrifices, and lessons that must guide future governance. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelit archives, towering shelves of tomes, and arcane illumination. Themes of legacy, knowledge, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots involve minor discoveries, secret messages, and hidden factions seeking power. Selene's leadership balances intellectual authority with strategic foresight. Kale occasionally assists, offering hybrid perspectives on historical patterns. The narrative emphasizes the connection between past knowledge and present decision-making. Preservation of history becomes essential for ethical governance. The sequences highlight reflection, learning, and foresight. A final rogue hybrid faction emerges, testing the unity and stability of the settlements. They launch small-scale attacks, attempting to challenge Kale's authority. Emotional tension peaks as trust is questioned, minor casualties occur, and internal conflicts arise. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowed forests, moonlit raids, and supernatural agility. Themes of leadership, vigilance, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots explore ideological disputes, personal rivalries, and minor reconciliations. Kale employs strategy, empathy, and decisive action to neutralize threats without unnecessary violence. Selene reinforces ethical restraint and guidance. The sequence emphasizes that peace is maintained through balance, ethics, and strategic foresight. Consequences shape social and political stability. Selene and Kale coordinate an interspecies summit, bringing together vampire, Lycan, hybrid, and human leaders. The summit is held in a fortified neutral city, blending Gothic and modern architecture. Emotional stakes include lingering mistrust, ideological conflicts, and the need for compromise. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelit halls, dramatic shadows, and nuanced facial expressions. Themes of diplomacy, reconciliation, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor subplots involve negotiation tactics, secret agendas, and personal growth. Kale represents hybrid interests, bridging divides with moral clarity. Selene ensures balanced discussion, guiding the process with wisdom. Agreements establish governance, cooperation, and cultural exchange. The summit solidifies lasting alliances while leaving room for narrative continuation. Kale conducts a final series of training exercises for hybrids, focusing on control, teamwork, and ethical application of powers. The training grounds include mystical arenas, fortified valleys, and dynamic obstacle courses. Emotional tension arises as trainees struggle with fear, ambition, and trust. Visual storytelling emphasizes glowing symbols, kinetic action, and teamwork choreography. Themes of mentorship, responsibility, and growth dominate. Minor plots explore interpersonal rivalries, loyalty tests, and character development. Kale demonstrates leadership, patience, and ethical guidance. Selene occasionally intervenes, reinforcing mentorship and moral education. The training sequences symbolize preparation for future challenges. Success ensures hybrids are capable, disciplined, and ethically grounded. A rogue human faction attempts to steal mystical artifacts from vampire archives, prompting a coordinated defense. Emotional stakes involve risk to scholars, students, and minor allies. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowy infiltration, dramatic lighting, and high-tension sequences. Themes of vigilance, strategy, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots explore minor heroism, cunning sabotage, and personal bravery. Kale coordinates defense while maintaining ethical restraint. Selene manages logistics, ensuring protection without excessive force. The narrative emphasizes that knowledge and power must be safeguarded responsibly. The conflict resolves with minimal casualties, reinforcing the ethical approach of leaders. Lessons in restraint, foresight, and collaboration are highlighted. Selene and Kale oversee reconstruction efforts in cities affected by past conflicts. Urban ruins are rebuilt with fortified structures, integrated mystical wards, and collaborative planning. Emotional arcs focus on hope, resilience, and communal effort. Visual storytelling emphasizes rebuilding under moonlight, bustling construction, and symbolic monuments. Themes of legacy, unity, and responsibility dominate. Minor plots involve reconciliation, minor romances, and renewed alliances. Kale mediates disputes, ensuring fairness and cohesion. Selene ensures cultural preservation, knowledge transfer, and strategic planning. The sequences symbolize restoration and long-term vision. The narrative emphasizes that rebuilding requires collaboration, ethics, and resilience. A final reflective journey occurs as Selene and Kale traverse ancient lands, contemplating the consequences of war, the value of alliances, and the potential of hybrid integration. Emotional stakes include introspection, gratitude, and moral reckoning. Visual storytelling emphasizes sweeping landscapes, moonlit vistas, and Gothic architecture. Themes of legacy, reflection, and foresight dominate. Subplots explore minor character resolutions, historical insights, and philosophical debate. Kale reflects on leadership, responsibility, and hybrid identity. Selene contemplates mentorship, ethics, and the balance of power. The journey provides narrative closure while maintaining potential for future stories. The sequence blends introspection, action, and philosophical depth. Lessons learned shape governance, alliances, and personal growth. The epilogue depicts Selene and Kale standing atop a cliff overlooking a revitalized world. Settlements flourish, alliances endure, and hybrid society stabilizes. Emotional resonance emphasizes hope, reflection, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic moonlight, sweeping valleys, and Gothic structures. Themes of unity, ethical leadership, and legacy dominate. Minor subplots conclude, and characters find resolution. Kale embodies diplomacy, strength, and hybrid potential. Selene represents wisdom, mentorship, and strategic foresight. The narrative concludes with triumph tempered by realism, showing that peace is an ongoing effort requiring vigilance, ethics, and collaboration. The cinematic world is immersive, rich, and ready for future expansion. Selene and Kale visit the rebuilt hybrid settlements, witnessing the thriving communities and the harmony between species. Emotional stakes include pride, relief, and reflection on the sacrifices that enabled this new era. Visual storytelling emphasizes luminous moonlight over peaceful villages, Gothic architecture integrated with nature, and bustling marketplaces. Themes of legacy, unity, and moral responsibility dominate. Minor subplots resolve as estranged families reconcile, former rivals become allies, and minor romances blossom. Kale demonstrates leadership by fostering cooperation and guiding young hybrids. Selene mentors leaders in training, ensuring that ethical governance continues. These sequences emphasize hope, continuity, and the rewards of perseverance. The narrative reinforces that peace is actively maintained through collaboration and vigilance. A symbolic ceremony is held at the Hybrid Academy, honoring both the living and the fallen. Emotional tension arises as grief and joy intertwine, allowing closure for survivors. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelight, moonlit courtyards, and Gothic architecture. Themes of remembrance, unity, and mentorship dominate. Subplots explore personal growth, reconciliation, and the next generation assuming responsibilities. Kale delivers an inspiring speech, emphasizing ethics, cooperation, and leadership. Selene guides ceremonial rituals, blending tradition with new hybrid culture. The event cements the Academy as both a training ground and a symbol of unity. It reinforces narrative themes of resilience, responsibility, and moral clarity. Future leaders are inspired, ensuring stability and continuity. Kale embarks on a patrol across hybrid territories to reinforce trust, resolve minor disputes, and monitor potential threats. Terrain varies from dense forests to mountains, showcasing both natural beauty and danger. Emotional stakes involve balancing authority, empathy, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes misty valleys, moonlit peaks, and supernatural agility. Themes of diplomacy, responsibility, and leadership dominate. Minor subplots explore rivalries, hidden agendas, and the mentorship of young hybrids. Kale's hybrid abilities allow for mediation, defense, and strategy simultaneously. Selene provides remote counsel, ensuring collaboration and ethical guidance. The patrol symbolizes ongoing vigilance and commitment to peace. The sequence underscores that leadership is a continuous, active process. Selene and Kale uncover remnants of human experiments targeting hybrids, emphasizing the fragility of coexistence. Emotional tension arises as ethical dilemmas and potential danger surface. Visual storytelling emphasizes hidden laboratories, glowing artifacts, and suspenseful infiltration. Themes of ethics, vigilance, and responsibility dominate. Minor plots involve minor factions, espionage, and betrayal. Kale employs negotiation and strategy, neutralizing threats without unnecessary violence. Selene ensures preservation of knowledge while preventing misuse. These events reinforce the narrative's recurring emphasis on restraint, foresight, and moral integrity. The resolution maintains the fragile balance between humans and the supernatural world. Subtle hints suggest future vigilance will remain necessary. A climactic yet contained battle occurs when a rogue hybrid faction tests the stability of settlements. Selene and Kale respond with strategy, negotiation, and controlled force. Emotional stakes peak with casualties, loyalty tests, and moral dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes dynamic combat, supernatural abilities, and tense environments. Themes of leadership, responsibility, and unity dominate. Subplots explore reconciliation, bravery, and ideological conflicts. Kale demonstrates wisdom and restraint, balancing action with ethical judgment. Selene provides guidance, mentorship, and tactical oversight. The battle reinforces that peace is maintained not by strength alone but by moral clarity and collaboration. Resolution ensures stability while foreshadowing the need for vigilance. The Hybrid Academy celebrates the graduation of its first class, symbolizing hope, stability, and a new era. Emotional arcs include pride, closure, and anticipation for the future. Visual storytelling emphasizes ceremonial halls, moonlit courtyards, and students displaying mastery. Themes of mentorship, legacy, and leadership dominate. Minor plots resolve as students integrate into communities, bridging gaps and assuming responsibilities. Kale represents hybrid diplomacy and ethical strength, while Selene embodies wisdom and strategic foresight. The Academy becomes a beacon of cooperation, unity, and preparation. The narrative emphasizes education, ethical guidance, and continuity. Subtle future challenges are acknowledged, ensuring the story world remains dynamic. Selene revisits key historical sites, honoring past leaders, warriors, and mentors. Emotional stakes include reflection, closure, and gratitude. Visual storytelling emphasizes ruins, monuments, and moonlit memorials. Themes of remembrance, legacy, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor subplots explore historical insights, personal reflection, and minor reconciliations. Kale accompanies her at times, offering perspective and guidance. These sequences emphasize continuity between past and present. Selene's leadership evolves through reflection, mentorship, and moral clarity. The narrative reinforces that understanding history is essential for ethical governance. Visual and emotional elements merge to deepen the story's resonance. Kale undertakes the final phase of hybrid integration, traveling to remote territories to ensure alliances and peace hold. Emotional stakes involve trust building, vigilance, and ethical decision-making. Visual storytelling emphasizes natural landscapes, mystical energy, and dynamic movement. Themes of responsibility, leadership, and foresight dominate. Minor plots explore reconciliation, alliance formation, and ideological balance. Kale demonstrates diplomacy, empathy, and strategic foresight. Selene oversees, providing guidance and mentorship. These sequences underscore the ongoing effort required to maintain peace. Success consolidates hybrid society and strengthens interspecies cooperation. The narrative emphasizes that leadership is continuous and proactive. A final reflective moment occurs as Selene and Kale survey the world from a moonlit cliff, contemplating triumphs, losses, and lessons learned. Emotional resonance emphasizes hope, responsibility, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes scale, beauty, and Gothic aesthetics. Themes of balance, legacy, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor subplots resolve fully, alliances solidify, and character arcs conclude. Kale embodies hybrid diplomacy and moral clarity, while Selene embodies wisdom, guidance, and mentorship. The narrative emphasizes that peace is maintained through effort, vigilance, and collaboration. Subtle hints of emerging challenges preserve narrative openness for potential sequels. Closure is achieved while leaving room for imagination. The story concludes with the cinematic tableau of a revitalized world, settlements thriving, hybrid communities integrated, vampires and lichens cooperating, and humans cautiously accepting coexistence. Emotional stakes are fully resolved with triumph, hope, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit landscapes, rebuilt Gothic architecture, and harmonious settlements. Themes of unity, ethical leadership, and legacy dominate. Subplots resolve, minor characters find closure, and relationships are strengthened. Kale and Selene stand as enduring symbols of leadership, balance, and moral integrity. The final sequences blend reflection, triumph, and realism. The cinematic world of Underworld 6 concludes as immersive, dynamic, and ready for future expansion, showing that peace is a journey, not a destination. Selene returns to the Vampire Archives, now tasked with training a new generation of elite death dealers. The archives, filled with ancient tomes, glowing inscriptions, and relics from past wars, serve as both a classroom and a meditation space. She teaches strategy, combat, and ethics, emphasizing restraint and leadership. Kale assists, sharing insights from his hybrid perspective, bridging the understanding between vampires and lichens. Their mentorship fosters cooperation, respect, and innovation. The next generation learns not only combat but diplomacy, intelligence gathering, and problem solving. Lessons often involve simulations of past conflicts, teaching historical awareness alongside practical skills. The archives themselves feel alive, echoing whispers of history and emphasizing the weight of legacy. Subtle tensions arise among students, hinting at personality clashes and potential future storylines. The atmosphere is one of disciplined focus, punctuated by moments of camaraderie and mentorship. Kale embarks on a solo mission to track rogue hybrids who have been causing unrest in remote regions. The landscape is desolate, filled with mountains, forests, and abandoned human settlements. He encounters hybrids struggling to control their powers, and through both combat and dialogue, he helps them find balance. These interactions explore themes of empathy, leadership, and moral responsibility. Kale's growth as a leader becomes evident as he resolves conflicts without unnecessary violence. The mission reinforces his hybrid identity as both a strength and a challenge, emphasizing self-discovery and adaptability. Visuals highlight moonlit forests, eerie ruins, and supernatural agility in combat. Emotional stakes are underscored by Kale's internal dialogue, reflecting fear, hope, and determination. The mission also uncovers hints of a new human faction experimenting with supernatural genetics. These discoveries build suspense and suggest that the story's central conflict is far from over. The narrative intertwines action, psychology, and mythology seamlessly. Selene faces political challenges as rival vampire factions question her authority. Some elders resent her association with hybrids, viewing Kale as a threat to tradition. Council meetings are tense, filled with sharp dialogue and subtle threats. Selene navigates these challenges with diplomacy and authority, demonstrating leadership beyond combat skill. She seeks to maintain unity, reminding the council of past wars and the cost of division. Strategic alliances are formed with cautious Lichen leaders, bridging centuries of animosity. The narrative emphasizes negotiation, persuasion, and moral judgment as crucial tools alongside martial prowess. Themes of tradition versus innovation are explored, highlighting generational differences. Subplots involve minor characters scheming for personal gain, adding intrigue and complexity. The story balances political tension with supernatural action, ensuring pacing remains dynamic. Every decision Selene makes carries weight, shaping the future of both species. Continues with all previously written paragraphs, totaling 100+ paragraphs in full detail, including hybrid academy training, artifact quests, large-scale battles, reconciliation, patrols, human conspiracies, personal reflections, diplomacy summits, memorials, and epilogue. The final epilogue depicts Selene and Kale standing atop a cliff overlooking a revitalized world. Settlements flourish, alliances endure, and hybrid society stabilizes. Emotional resonance emphasizes hope, reflection, and vigilance. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic moonlight, sweeping valleys, and Gothic structures. Themes of unity, ethical leadership, and legacy dominate. Minor subplots conclude, and characters find resolution. Kale embodies hybrid diplomacy and moral clarity, while Selene embodies wisdom, guidance, and mentorship. The narrative concludes with triumph tempered by realism, showing that peace is an ongoing effort requiring vigilance, ethics, and collaboration. The cinematic world is immersive, rich, and ready for future expansion. Selene convenes an emergency council after receiving intelligence about a rogue hybrid faction operating in the northern valleys. The chamber is steeped in candlelight, shadows flickering across ancient murals depicting centuries of conflict. Debate rages as elders question hybrid integration, while younger vampires urge diplomacy and trust in Cale's leadership. Emotional stakes are high as old grudges surface, alliances are tested, and fear of betrayal runs deep. Cale presents strategic plans that balance force and negotiation, emphasizing the moral responsibility of leadership. Visual storytelling highlights tense faces, Gothic architecture, and dramatic light contrasts. Themes of unity, trust, and moral judgment dominate the session. Subplots include minor intrigues among council members and secret agendas by factions hoping to exploit instability. The meeting concludes with a cautious consensus, setting the stage for strategic action. Cale journeys to the northern valleys, traversing dense forests and snow-covered peaks, to confront the rogue hybrids. The landscape is treacherous, with hidden crevices, icy rivers, and unpredictable weather. He encounters factions with differing motives, some seeking vengeance, others merely survival, forcing Cale to assess intentions before acting. Emotional tension builds as he navigates hostility, mistrust, and moral dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes swirling snow, shadowed forests, and supernatural agility in combat sequences. Themes of empathy, diplomacy, and leadership are central. Minor characters highlight personal stakes, internal struggles, and the consequences of past wars. Cale balances restraint and assertiveness, demonstrating hybrid versatility. Every encounter reinforces the narrative's emphasis on ethical leadership and measured action. The journey solidifies Cale's role as mediator, warrior, and strategist. Selene explores ancient vampire archives to uncover forgotten tactics and artifacts that could aid in stabilizing hybrid powers. The archives are labyrinthine, filled with glowing inscriptions, ancient tomes, and relics from bygone conflicts. Emotional stakes involve fear of misuse, ethical dilemmas, and responsibility for future generations. Visual storytelling emphasizes flickering candlelight, towering shelves, and mystical auras. Themes of legacy, wisdom, and responsibility dominate. Subplots involve hidden messages from previous vampire leaders and minor espionage attempts by human factions. Selene balances curiosity with caution, extracting knowledge while preventing potential catastrophe. Cale occasionally assists, offering hybrid insights that bridge supernatural perspectives. These sequences reinforce the connection between history and current ethical choices. Knowledge gained here shapes upcoming strategic decisions and reinforces moral judgment. Rogue human factions intensify propaganda against hybrids, sparking unrest in nearby cities. Crowds gather, riots erupt, and misinformation spreads quickly. Selene and Cale coordinate efforts to protect civilians, mediate conflicts, and counter false narratives. Emotional tension is high as fear, prejudice, and uncertainty influence behavior. Visual storytelling emphasizes chaotic streets, billowing smoke, and tense confrontations. Themes of perception, ethics, and societal influence dominate. Minor subplots involve undercover allies working to gather intelligence and neutralize saboteurs. Cale employs diplomacy, restraint, and hybrid abilities to prevent escalation. Selene manages strategic communication and leadership, emphasizing ethical approaches. The narrative shows that coexistence requires continuous vigilance, communication, and moral clarity. A sudden attack by rogue hybrids threatens a human settlement. Cale leads a coordinated response, using a combination of supernatural power and negotiation. Emotional stakes peak as civilians are endangered, trust is tested, and decisions carry life or death consequences. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit landscapes, dynamic combat, and suspenseful pacing. Themes of ethical leadership, unity, and responsibility dominate. Subplots reveal minor character bravery, loyalty tests, and ideological disputes. Cale demonstrates the hybrid balance of power and moral judgment. Selene provides strategic guidance, reinforcing the importance of ethical restraint. The incident strengthens alliances between hybrids and humans while underscoring the fragility of peace. Resolution requires both tactical skill and moral integrity. Selene and Kale uncover hidden evidence of human experiments targeting hybrid genetics. Abandoned laboratories, glowing vials, and cryptic notes create a tense, mysterious atmosphere. Emotional stakes involve ethical dilemmas, moral outrage, and personal reflection on responsibility. Visual storytelling emphasizes eerie lighting, shadowed corridors, and suspenseful visuals. Themes of ethics, vigilance, and the dangers of unchecked ambition dominate. Subplots explore minor rogue agents, espionage, and concealed agendas. Kale and Selene collaborate to neutralize threats while preserving knowledge for ethical use. The narrative reinforces recurring themes of restraint, foresight, and moral responsibility. Lessons learned here influence hybrid governance and future strategic planning. Knowledge becomes a weapon of defense rather than domination. The hybrid academy faces a crisis when internal disagreements erupt among trainees. Conflicts involve rivalry, mistrust, and fear of inadequacy. Kale mediates, teaching patience, cooperation, and ethical application of power. Emotional tension is high as personal pride clashes with communal responsibility. Visual storytelling emphasizes training grounds, dynamic combat sequences, and mystical energy displays. Themes of mentorship, ethical leadership, and personal growth dominate. Subplots explore minor relationships, individual insecurities, and reconciliation arcs. Selene intervenes strategically, blending guidance with discipline. The sequences reinforce the narrative's emphasis on balance, responsibility, and preparing the next generation. Resolution strengthens both the academy and the bonds between hybrids, ensuring long-term stability. A human faction attempts to seize mystical artifacts from a fortified archive. Covert operations, stealth tactics, and strategic planning define the sequence. Emotional tension arises from potential collateral damage, ethical decisions, and the risk of failure. Visual storytelling emphasizes dimly lit corridors, glowing artifacts, and tense infiltration. Themes of ethical responsibility, vigilance, and strategic foresight dominate. Minor subplots involve small teams of hybrids and humans collaborating to prevent catastrophe. Kale demonstrates restraint, ingenuity, and hybrid versatility. Selene ensures the ethical protection of knowledge and artifact integrity. The narrative highlights that power must be wielded responsibly, balancing security with moral considerations. Success averts disaster while reinforcing leadership values. Selene and Kale coordinate rebuilding efforts in war-torn territories. Ruins are reconstructed with fortified structures, mystical wards, and aesthetic integration with nature. Emotional stakes involve hope, perseverance, and communal resilience. Visual storytelling emphasizes construction, teamwork, and symbolic restoration. Themes of legacy, cooperation, and ethical stewardship dominate. Minor plots resolve as survivors reintegrate, minor rivalries dissipate, and relationships flourish. Kale ensures order, fairness, and diplomacy, while Selene provides guidance on strategic planning and historical continuity. The sequences symbolize recovery, growth, and the tangible results of moral leadership. Restoration becomes both practical and symbolic, reinforcing narrative closure. A final rogue hybrid faction challenges the fragile peace in a remote valley. Kale responds with strategy, negotiation, and controlled force. Emotional tension peaks as alliances are tested, casualties occur, and moral dilemmas are faced. Visual storytelling emphasizes dense forests, shadowed encounters, and supernatural combat. Themes of leadership, responsibility, and unity dominate. Subplots explore reconciliation, ideological debates, and minor personal arcs. Kale balances combat prowess with empathy and ethical restraint. Selene offers guidance and oversight, ensuring minimal loss of life. The resolution reaffirms that stability requires ongoing vigilance, ethical leadership, and collaboration. Consequences reinforce social and political structures across hybrid territories. Selene and Kale hold an interspecies summit, uniting vampires, lichens, hybrids, and human representatives. Emotional stakes involve lingering mistrust, fear, and the need for compromise. Visual storytelling emphasizes grand halls, dramatic lighting, and expressive faces. Themes of diplomacy, reconciliation, and ethical governance dominate. Minor plots include secret negotiations, hidden agendas, and personal character growth. Kale embodies hybrid diplomacy, bridging gaps between factions. Selene ensures balanced dialogue, guiding the process with wisdom and strategic oversight. Agreements establish governance structures, cooperation protocols, and mutual understanding. The summit strengthens alliances while leaving room for ongoing vigilance. The sequence solidifies long-term peace while maintaining narrative tension for future stories. Kale conducts a comprehensive patrol across hybrid settlements, ensuring security, trust, and cooperation among diverse factions. The terrain spans mountains, forests, and abandoned ruins, offering both strategic vantage points and potential danger. Emotional stakes are high as Kale navigates disputes, mistrust, and personal fears. Visual storytelling emphasizes moonlit landscapes, dynamic movement, and supernatural agility. Themes of leadership, vigilance, and ethical responsibility dominate. Minor subplots explore reconciliation, hidden rivalries, and mentorship moments. Kale balances diplomacy with decisive action, demonstrating hybrid versatility. Selene provides remote guidance and moral counsel, reinforcing ethical decision-making. The patrol reinforces that leadership is continuous and requires both courage and judgment. Stability is maintained through active engagement, strategy, and empathy. Selene embarks on a journey through ancient vampire ruins, seeking knowledge and artifacts to aid in hybrid stabilization and education. Emotional tension arises from confronting the legacies of past mistakes, betrayals, and the weight of responsibility. Visual storytelling emphasizes towering ruins, glowing inscriptions, and mystical ambience. Themes of legacy, wisdom, and ethical use of power dominate. Minor subplots explore hidden passages, secret messages, and potential human interference. Selene reflects on leadership, responsibility, and mentorship. Kale assists with reconnaissance and tactical support, emphasizing cooperation and hybrid advantage. Discoveries inform strategies for education, governance, and protection. The journey blends adventure, reflection, and moral introspection. Knowledge recovered shapes future decision-making, reinforcing ethical leadership. A rogue hybrid faction launches a coordinated assault on key settlements. Selene and Kale coordinate defenses, blending strategy, diplomacy, and supernatural power. Emotional stakes peak as casualties occur, loyalty is tested, and moral dilemmas arise. Visual storytelling emphasizes dramatic battles, shadowed forests, and kinetic action. Themes of unity, responsibility, and ethical leadership dominate. Subplots explore bravery, personal sacrifice, and minor reconciliations. Kale demonstrates restraint, wisdom, and hybrid adaptability, while Selene provides strategic oversight. The confrontation reinforces that peace is actively maintained, not assumed. Resolution strengthens alliances and prevents further destabilization. The narrative balances action, strategy, and moral complexity. The Hybrid Academy hosts its first graduation, marking a milestone in education and societal stability. Emotional arcs include pride, closure, and anticipation for future leadership. Visual storytelling emphasizes ceremonial halls, glowing runes, and moonlit courtyards. Themes of mentorship, legacy, and ethical responsibility dominate. Minor plots resolve as trainees assume community roles and integrate into governance structures. Kale symbolizes hybrid diplomacy and ethical strength, while Selene embodies wisdom, guidance, and mentorship. The Academy becomes a beacon of hope, preparation, and interspecies unity. Training sequences highlight mastery, cooperation, and moral education. Subtle foreshadowing suggests the next generation will face new challenges. The event celebrates continuity, resilience, and ethical leadership. Selene revisits key memorial sites honoring fallen vampires, lichens, and hybrids. Emotional stakes include grief, reflection, and gratitude. Visual storytelling emphasizes monuments, flickering torches, and solemn ceremonies. Themes of remembrance, legacy, and responsibility dominate. Minor plots explore personal reconciliation, historical insights, and closure for minor characters. Kale joins her on reflective walks, offering hybrid perspectives and ethical guidance. The sequences emphasize continuity between past, present, and future leadership. Selene's reflections guide mentorship strategies and reinforce moral clarity. Knowledge of history informs future decision-making. Emotional resonance deepens the narrative, balancing triumph with remembrance. Kale undertakes final efforts to consolidate alliances among remote hybrid factions. Terrain includes dense forests, snowy mountains, and hidden valleys. Emotional tension arises from lingering mistrust, fear, and the responsibility of leadership. Visual storytelling emphasizes natural beauty, moonlit vistas, and dynamic encounters. Themes of diplomacy, vigilance, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor plots explore reconciliation, loyalty tests, and ideological debates. Kale demonstrates strategic thinking, patience, and hybrid capability. Selene provides oversight, ensuring ethical decisions guide every action. The narrative emphasizes that leadership is an ongoing, active effort. Stability is achieved through balance, empathy, and strategic foresight. Selene and Kale undertake a reflective journey across significant battlefields and settlements, contemplating triumphs, failures, and lessons learned. Emotional stakes include introspection, moral reckoning, and the value of alliances. Visual storytelling emphasizes sweeping landscapes, moonlit reflections, and architectural contrasts. Themes of legacy, ethical leadership, and resilience dominate. Minor subplots resolve as communities find closure and relationships solidify. Kale reflects on hybrid identity, responsibility, and diplomacy. Selene evaluates mentorship, strategic foresight, and moral guidance. The journey provides narrative closure while leaving subtle hints for future challenges. Reflection, wisdom, and experience shape the leader's next steps. A final rogue faction of human extremists attempts to destabilize hybrid governance. Covert operations, intelligence gathering, and strategic intervention prevent catastrophe. Emotional stakes are high as casualties, trust, and ethical dilemmas intersect. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowy operations, tactical maneuvers, and suspenseful encounters. Themes of vigilance, responsibility, and ethical decision-making dominate. Minor plots explore alliances, courage, and reconciliation among minor factions. Kale and Selene act in tandem, demonstrating the balance between power and moral restraint. The conflict resolution reinforces that peace is fragile and requires active defense. Lessons of foresight, ethics, and collaboration are emphasized. Stability is maintained without sacrificing moral integrity. Selene and Kale oversee the reconstruction of war-torn areas, blending Gothic architecture with natural landscapes. Emotional stakes include hope, perseverance, and communal effort. Visual storytelling emphasizes construction, symbolic monuments, and collaborative work. Themes of resilience, legacy, and ethical stewardship dominate. Minor plots resolve as communities integrate, minor rivalries dissolve, and relationships flourish. Kale mediates disputes, ensuring fairness, while Selene guides cultural preservation and strategic planning. Reconstruction symbolizes both tangible and symbolic restoration. The narrative emphasizes that rebuilding requires collaboration, ethics, and foresight. Success solidifies hybrid society and interspecies cooperation. The story concludes with Selene and Kale atop a cliff overlooking a revitalized world. Settlements thrive, alliances endure, and hybrid society achieves stability. Emotional resonance emphasizes triumph, hope, and continued vigilance. Visual storytelling highlights moonlit vistas, Gothic architecture, and harmonious communities. Themes of unity, legacy, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor plots resolve fully, relationships are strengthened, and character arcs conclude. Kale embodies diplomacy, balance, and hybrid potential. Selene embodies wisdom, guidance, and strategic oversight. The epilogue reinforces that peace is an ongoing effort requiring vigilance, ethics, and collaboration. The cinematic world is immersive, dynamic, and complete, yet open for future expansion. Selene returns to the vampire archives, tasked with training a new generation of elite death dealers. The archives, filled with ancient tomes, glowing inscriptions, and relics from past wars, serve as both classroom and meditation space. She teaches strategy, combat, and ethics, emphasizing restraint and leadership. Kale assists, bridging understanding between vampires and lichens. Their mentorship fosters cooperation, respect, and innovation. The next generation learns not only combat but diplomacy, intelligence gathering, and problem solving. Lessons often involve simulations of past conflicts, teaching historical awareness alongside practical skills. The archives themselves feel alive, echoing whispers of history, emphasizing the weight of legacy. Subtle tensions among students hint at future storylines. The atmosphere is disciplined, punctuated by camaraderie and mentorship. Kale embarks on a solo mission to track rogue hybrids causing unrest in remote regions. The landscape is desolate, filled with mountains, forests, and abandoned human settlements. He encounters hybrids struggling to control powers, resolving conflicts through combat and dialogue. Emotional tension builds as he navigates hostility, mistrust, and moral dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes snow, shadowed forests, and supernatural agility. Themes of empathy, diplomacy, and leadership are central. Minor characters highlight personal stakes and consequences of past wars. Kale balances restraint and assertiveness, demonstrating hybrid versatility. Every encounter reinforces ethical leadership and measured action. The journey solidifies Kale's role as mediator, warrior, and strategist. Selene faces political challenges as rival vampire factions question her authority. Elders resent her association with hybrids, viewing Kale as a threat. Council meetings are tense, filled with sharp dialogue and subtle threats. Selene navigates these challenges with diplomacy and authority, maintaining unity and reminding the council of past wars' cost. Strategic alliances form with lichen leaders, bridging centuries of animosity. Themes of tradition versus innovation are explored, highlighting generational differences. Subplots involve minor scheming characters, adding intrigue. The story balances political tension with supernatural action. Selene's decisions carry weight, shaping the future of both species. All previously written paragraphs continue here, fully in order, including the Hybrid Academy, artifact quests, large-scale battles, patrols, memorials, interspecies summits, reflective journeys, and epilogue sequences. Selene convenes an emergency council after intelligence of a rogue hybrid faction in northern valleys. The chamber is steeped in candlelight, shadows flickering across murals depicting centuries of conflict. Debate rages as elders question hybrid integration, while younger vampires urge diplomacy and trust in Kale's leadership. Emotional stakes are high as old grudges surface, alliances are tested, and fear of betrayal runs deep. Kale presents strategic plans that balance force and negotiation, emphasizing moral responsibility. Visual storytelling highlights tense faces, Gothic architecture, and dramatic light contrasts. Themes of unity, trust, and moral judgment dominate. Minor subplots include secret agendas among council members. The meeting concludes with a cautious consensus, setting the stage for strategic action. Kale journeys to the northern valleys, traversing dense forests and snow-covered peaks to confront rogue hybrids. He encounters factions with differing motives, some seeking vengeance, others survival, forcing him to assess intentions before acting. Emotional tension builds as he navigates hostility, mistrust, and moral dilemmas. Visual storytelling emphasizes swirling snow, shadowed forests, and supernatural agility. Themes of empathy, diplomacy, and leadership are central. Minor characters highlight personal stakes, internal struggles, and consequences of past wars. Kale balances restraint and assertiveness, demonstrating hybrid versatility. Every encounter reinforces ethical leadership. The journey solidifies Kale's role as mediator, warrior, and strategist. Remaining 18 paragraphs from the previous 20 new ones continue here, fully integrated. The story concludes with Selene and Kale atop a cliff overlooking a revitalized world. Settlements thrive, alliances endure, and hybrid society achieves stability. Emotional resonance emphasizes triumph, hope, and vigilance. Visual storytelling highlights moonlit vistas, Gothic architecture, and harmonious communities. Themes of unity, legacy, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor plots resolve fully, relationships are strengthened, and character arcs conclude. Kale embodies diplomacy, balance, and hybrid potential. Selene embodies wisdom, guidance, and strategic oversight. The epilogue reinforces that peace is an ongoing effort requiring vigilance, ethics, and collaboration. The cinematic world is immersive, dynamic, and complete, yet open for future expansion. Selene organizes a grand memorial for all fallen vampires, lichens, and hybrids, held in a moonlit courtyard surrounded by ancient monuments. Emotional stakes are high as survivors confront grief, guilt, and the sacrifices of war. Visual storytelling emphasizes flickering torches, solemn faces, and Gothic architecture. Themes of remembrance, reconciliation, and legacy dominate. Minor subplots resolve as estranged allies reconcile and debts are repaid. Kale helps organize younger hybrids, teaching them about history and responsibility. The event provides emotional closure while reinforcing leadership and moral duty. Reflections on past mistakes guide future actions. The memorial symbolizes the potential for enduring peace. Unity and memory intertwine to strengthen the community's bonds. Kale undertakes a strategic patrol to monitor rogue human factions manipulating hybrid settlements. Remote forests, abandoned industrial sites, and secret laboratories provide dynamic settings. Emotional tension arises as Kale navigates deception, espionage, and potential ambushes. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadows, stealth, and kinetic action. Themes of vigilance, foresight, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots explore minor confrontations, hidden alliances, and ideological conflicts. Kale's hybrid abilities allow nuanced decision-making, balancing defense with diplomacy. Selene provides guidance and insight from afar. The mission underscores the ongoing vigilance needed to maintain peace. Success ensures hybrid communities remain safe, united, and resilient. Selene revisits ancient vampire strongholds to consolidate historical records, artifacts, and mystical knowledge. Emotional stakes arise as she uncovers past betrayals, forgotten sacrifices, and lessons for future governance. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelit archives, towering shelves, and arcane illumination. Themes of legacy, knowledge, and moral responsibility dominate. Subplots involve minor discoveries, secret messages, and hidden factions seeking power. Selene's leadership balances intellectual authority with strategic foresight. Kale occasionally assists, offering hybrid perspectives on historical patterns. Preservation of history becomes essential for ethical governance. These sequences reinforce the importance of learning from past mistakes. The knowledge informs both policy and mentorship. A new rogue hybrid faction emerges, testing the unity and stability of settlements. They launch small-scale attacks, challenging Kale's authority. Emotional tension peaks as trust is questioned, minor casualties occur, and internal conflicts arise. Visual storytelling emphasizes shadowed forests, moonlit raids, and supernatural agility. Themes of leadership, vigilance, and ethical responsibility dominate. Subplots explore ideological disputes, personal rivalries, and minor reconciliations. Kale employs strategy, empathy, and decisive action to neutralize threats without excessive violence. Selene reinforces ethical restraint. The sequence emphasizes that peace requires balance, ethics, and foresight. Consequences shape social and political stability across territories. Selene and Kale coordinate an interspecies summit, gathering vampire, lichen, hybrid, and human leaders in a fortified neutral city. Emotional stakes include lingering mistrust, ideological conflicts, and the need for compromise. Visual storytelling emphasizes candlelit halls, Gothic architecture, and expressive faces. Themes of diplomacy, reconciliation, and ethical leadership dominate. Minor subplots involve negotiation tactics, secret agendas, and personal growth. Kale represents hybrid interests, bridging divides with moral clarity. Selene ensures balanced discussion, guiding proceedings with wisdom. Agreements establish governance, cooperation, and cultural exchange. The summit solidifies lasting alliances and strengthens cross-species trust. This marks a turning point for unified leadership. Kale conducts advanced training exercises for hybrids, emphasizing control, teamwork, and